race to the top. Now, right away, I know Cindy jokingly said there's sort of like those little abbreviations for you all. Here's a new one you need to know. RTTT, race to the top.
Oh, that's
okay, RTTT. The Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, probably about 6 months ago, had a major proclamation that he was going to put about $4.5 billion available to districts as part of stimulus and what have you. In order to get to $4 billion, though, you have to be in it. So the old proverbial lottery, you got to be in it to win it. And that required states to give certain assurances that they would, in fact, adhere to requirements having to do with four areas of assurance. One, having to do with staffing, which had to do with teacher quality issues and principal quality issues. Two, having to do with assessment and standards. And three, having to do with data. Four would be, and it doesn't apply to New Rochelle, those districts that have schools that are identified as troubled schools and are in need of makeover or a turnaround. We don't have that. So we've got three issues to concern ourselves with. The State Ed Department, in the form of the Commissioner, has embarked upon a major campaign to encourage every district in New York State to, in fact, sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you.
Okay. And that MOU is to provide assurances to the state in turn to the feds that we will, in fact, if selected, adhere to and or participate in the development of a proposal up to the state that would address those three issues that we just discussed. In order to qualify, however, New York State first must be selected. And what's at stake here is roughly about $700 million. That $700 million is split in half evenly. $350 million will go if the state is selected and you are and have Title I schools, you get a formula share of the $350. We are part of that. The other 50%, the other $350, the state holds in hand, puts out RFPs, and you can apply for some portion of $350. We'd be in both categories. One would be guaranteed, because we're Title I. Two would be you apply just like everybody else, depending on what you're asking for. Yet again, though, you've got to be participants in order to take advantage of it. We had a telephone conference call this afternoon with the Commissioner, one on us, and it was a very engaging conversation. I think it was also very clear, and I offer my colleagues a chance to chime in. They do need the support. They do need the support big time of school districts, particularly. They know they've got New York City, they know they've got the big five, now they need the small cities. The small cities that have Title I programs. And as I said before, we are prominent in that regard. The Commissioner, I thought was very engaging. I thought he gave us the kind of straight answers he could give us. And to the extent the request is the following. An MOU must be signed by this Friday by the Superintendent as the LEA designee, by the President of the Board, and, if possible, by the President of the Teachers Union. Marty and I will be meeting tomorrow just to discuss this, but for tonight's request, it's really to request of the Board, and not with Sarah not here, but she'll be in tomorrow, the ability to go forward with signing that MOU this coming Friday.
What's it mean? What's it mean to us?
Well, I've got.
Let me back up, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this, kind of so quickly. But when we were at the dinner, the joint Westput dinner, remember, and Meryl Tisch spoke, and Harry Cohen was also there, and apparently, Harry, yes, I'm thinking that's so funny, but she had read the RFP that came out before, and she said it was like over 400 pages. Then you know
680 hours to read.
Yeah, that's 681 man hours to do what? To read it, to put work into it?
Oh, just to read the regulations.
Oh, and this is going to tell us what's being asked of the district?
Yeah, what I'm giving you now, and forgive me, is what I'm giving you now is you've got 4 items coming your way. The first item, or one of the items, is in fact an opinion from Jeff Kale. Jeff Kale has been asked, because it is an MOU, to give us the kind of interpretation, observation, all right? And you have that there to serve as guidance. The other information you have are the positions of small cities, New York State, small,
City School Districts Association.
I'm not even gonna try all those letters, but small city school districts.
Yeah, Association of Small Cities.
Okay, and their position as to why they're in support of it. You also have the Superintendent's Association letter defining why they're in favor of it. And I know the School Boards Association did a letter in support. I think that might come out like 2 weeks ago. The last thing you should have in there is the actual copy of the MOU and the request for the proposal to be signed. This is all readily available in any number of forms, and I apologize for sort of overwhelming you tonight with all this information, but this really kicked up pretty much right the day before the holiday. There was a very half-hearted approach, to be honest with you, that many districts were taking because they were doing the math. And the math wasn't really working in their favor. If you were in a Title I district, for example, you could only bank on applying for that other money, and there was no guarantee you would get it. If you were a Title I district, well, the only way you would get the money is you'd have to apply, but you didn't know how much money you were gonna get. John did some quick math, and I don't wanna put him on the spot, but the money to come through Title I at this point is 4 years' worth of money.
4 years?
4 years. So that my concern is always the same. I don't wanna do one-shot deals. Don't give me money for 1 year, get a program up and running, and then pull the rug on us. You know, in some respects, I back off stuff like that because it just doesn't help the cause. This is a 4-year commitment. A 4-year commitment that does get targeted to schools in need, Title I schools, but has some room to maneuver, possibly, to give funds and support to other schools in the district. So, again, it's a lot of reading. We just got inundated, truthfully, over the last couple of days. And the commission was actually calling each school district, that small city school district for sure. He spent about 20-25 minutes on the phone with us, answered questions directly. So I have to
And
tell
it
you.
sounds like our administrators think it's a good idea.
Yeah, well,
Yeah?
Maybe you should also talk about the 90-day
I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
opportunity to withdraw your application if you get cold feet.
thank you. The initial MOU going in right now is an MOU to intend to participate. If the feds give the money to the state, you then have 90 days in which to file your actual plan. In that plan, you detail which one of the areas, or all 3 of the areas, what strategies you want to use. You will know going into that plan how much money you would be getting if you stay in the pool. But as Dr. Korostoff said, if at that point you're looking at it and it's just not worth it, you don't have to go any further. You don't have to put in the plan. So you've got 90 days in which to really work this over any number of ways you can. You know how much money you should be getting, and then you're open to get the other money in terms of applying for it. So, you know, is it an escape clause? I think it's there. I don't think many districts will take it unless, of course, the money just isn't worth it. I mean, that sounds silly in this day and age, but
Yeah.
it is entirely possible that the amount that you would get for what you have to put in might very well be, you know, not worth your investment in it. We don't know answers to questions like, well, what will the feds do if they require certain accountability measures? What will the feds do if you don't get income? What will the feds do if they require accounting measures that have to go once a month, once every 3 months? We don't have answers to any of that, but neither does the commission.
Right.
So the caution here is, get your MOU in now, take your 90 days once you get notified, and then make up your mind, make up your decision.
Seems like
We have no idea.
Yeah, we really don't.
Well, the way I'm
Do
doing,
it, we're not in.
definitely, the way I'm reading it is, failure to do so will apparently disqualify a school district from receiving any funds.
That's right, you can't even
So
apply
I don't
for the
think
other.
we